shocking, it can be shaming, it can be amazing. But that's one of the functions, which is why people who shut out their dreams are people who worry me, because they're not actually open to that, that voice of conscience and that witness perspective. Dreams are part of our survival mechanism for reasons I gave, for example, because they show us the possible future, enable us to make better choices. Dreams are also a royal road to listening to a voice of wisdom that is deeper than the ordinary mind. I mean, this is why so many cultures, for so much of human history, have valued dreams and dreamers more than our mass society tends to do today, because they understand that dreams are a way of listening to the god or goddess you can talk to. They're a way of listening to voices of nature. They're a way of listening to the ancestors or to the wiser or higher self. And most cultures, until recently, have understood that dreams are also an agent of healing. I mean, dreams diagnose what's going on inside the body. It's as if at night we do a scan of our bodily systems, and if you pay attention and ask from time to time, what is this saying about the state of my body, you might find you're getting diagnostic information which can help you to identify a problem or avoid it altogether. Dreams are also a source of imagery we can use for self-healing. In medical science, it's increasingly understood that images can heal the body. The body will receive the right image held with conviction as if it's a physical event. So where do you get the right images to help your body do better? Well, your dreams are a factory of images. So these are some of the things about dreaming, beyond the adventure and entertainment factor, which of course I love, which I write from, and the stories that we get. These are things about dreaming that matter. But coming back to the story value of dreaming, I think of what Aborigines in my native Australia say, where the society and the tradition is still intact out in the Western Desert, West Australia. You tell a dream around the fire where your billy is boiling up the water for your tea in the morning, and people listen to the dream and they make some signs, and then somebody will say, the dreamer himself or someone else might say, good story, that one, or story sweet as tea. The first thing they celebrate about the dream, if it's a good dream, is it's a good story. So this is one thing that I, as a storyteller, love about dreams. They give us our personal stories. And being able to tell the stories well, as you do, Gary, you tell your dreams very well. I applaud that. Being able to tell the story of your dream well and be appreciated and listened to is a great thing. And when you get into the habit and practice of sharing dreams in the right way with other people, so they're not bored and they're not confused, they can listen to you, learn from you, share with you, it's a great social event. I've invented a way of talking about these things, a simple four-step process for sharing dreams and stories that works really well. It's fun. You can do it in minutes. And I notice wherever people learn this way of sharing these stories, they're growing friendship, they're growing relationship, and they're growing a connection with a deeper reality.
Oh, yeah. You said it so well. One thing I have actually noticed, I do have a lot of authors on my show that I interview. And, the every one of them, when I'm talking to them about their book, I ask them, okay, well, when does your story for your book, do you think about it during the day as you're typing on your computer? Or does it happen when you go to bed at night? And like 99% of them say they keep a notebook by their bed, they go to bed, and they have basically a dream about their next chapter or the chapter they're working on. It plays while they're sleeping out in their head. And I find that so interesting, because it's like almost everybody I've ever had on, and I've had a lot of authors on here, they all say pretty much the same thing.
Well, you're obviously inviting the right authors, Gary. I mean, the roots of creativity are sometimes mysterious. Sometimes they well up in ways that the creator can't actually explain. But for me, the most creative practice that I know for me, and I recommend it to other writers, is to keep a journal. As I said to you, I've been keeping a journal as a dedicated practice for about 40 years now. There are tens of thousands of reports, not only dreams, but passing thoughts, miniature essays, experiences of synchronicity, etc. But usually my journaling starts with something from the night, something harvested from my dreams, whether the dreams were sleep dreams or experiences or insights that came in those liminal twilight states of hypnagogia. You're in between sleep and awake. and you make creative connections the ordinary mind can't manage, and you're open to deeper sources of knowledge. So catching the gifts of the night is, for me, the very center of creative inspiration, and I find that all of my books flow almost seamlessly from what I'm writing in my journal, not only from the dreams, but from the other experiences that I catch and keep in my journal. In fact, I don't understand how you can write books, creative books, unless you keep a journal.
Yeah, I've had a couple people, said they got right in front of their computer and started making up a story, and I hate to say it, a lot of times I get these books that they, write, and it looked like it.
I think I missed something there.
Well, what I said is that they just made it up as they were typing it up on the computer. Uh-huh. And it showed in their book. I mean, the book lacked everything versus somebody
I see.
that, goes through what you go through, or the other people I've had on, where they take notes and remember part of their, story at the night when they're sleeping.
Right. Right. Well, writing is dreaming on paper or dreaming on a screen, I guess, these days, if you're going to type it on the computer first. I must tell, the reason I was hesitating over what you said is because I can't read my handwriting. When I'm at home, I tend to type on the computer most of the time. When I'm traveling, which is 50% of my life, because I teach workshops and seminars all over the world. I just came back from Romania and Barcelona, for example, 36 hours ago. I love writing in a beautiful travel journal. I have beautiful travel journals, and I like writing by hand with a fountain pen, and I like drawing and sketching in my journal, and there's a certain magic to doing that. However, because I can't read my writing, if I don't transcribe it pretty soon, it's going to be lost. So, apart from the drawing. So I was hesitating over what you were saying because I picture myself with my fingers tapping away at the keyboard and something good coming out. You're talking about someone who's trying to make something out without drawing from the deeper springs of creative inspiration. Well, yeah, there's a lot of that going on. There are a lot of books being produced, and I won't knock anybody who finishes the book and gets it to publication. I mean, I applaud that. That's a good effort. But, it doesn't mean that all of them are ones that we want to read, right?
Well, I don't know. I have had one guest, and I'm not going to even say who it was, but they, their editor bugged me for about 4 months to get the person on. And, we were talking about their book, but they didn't want to talk much about their book because they were scared they would give any information away about it so nobody would buy it. And then I asked, I said, well, how long did it take you to write the book? And they said, well, I wrote it in a week. And I said, well, how many pages? And it was like 300 and some odd pages. I said, you wrote it in a week? Yeah. And then I said, okay, well, how many of your copies of your book sold? He goes, only one. and I said, well, where is it available? You can go on Amazon and, purchase on Amazon. They'll print it out and send it to you. The problem was, evidently, you sit down and write a 300 and some page book in a week. You can't do it. I don't know. I'm not an author. I never claimed to be. I don't think I have the capability of even starting. But I mean, you got to use your imagination. You got to use your whatever it comes to you in your dreams or whatever. And it all it just all comes out. You just can't just sit there and just, okay, I'm going to make a book and then start typing. I guess you can nowadays, but, that's not a book, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I'm skeptical about 330 pages in a week, but I've written books in 3 weeks. But that sounds crazy, but the 3 weeks follow years of preparation, years of, of marinating the book, of the ideas growing. I mean, you don't write a book that's of value in a few weeks unless it's grown out of a life experience and a creative experience that's gone on for a much longer time. I mean, I'm not a plod pedestrian writer. I write my journal every day, but I don't try to write a book every day. I basically look forward to the moment when the book is bursting to come through, and then it might come through fairly quickly, like 3 or 4 weeks. But that comes on the heels of a long period of growing the material, of writing things in my journal, which become the first draft. So I'm not writing on the blank page. I mean, there is a lot going into the work at that point. I dreamed of Italo Calvino, the Italian writer who was a master of the short form. He turned up at 3:00 in the morning in front of my desk. I was familiar with some of his work, but not all that much. I had to check the photographs afterwards. He turned up as he looked in his 1930s. Well, excuse me, when he was in his 30s. And he reminded me of some things about writing. He reminded me that it can be good to write in the short form, like the short form or like the short story, the essay, as well as a novel, which is why partly Mysterious Realities is a collection of stories. You can read them front to back and enjoy yourself and be caught up in a developing narrative, but it's basically short tales, short stories rather than one novel. Anyway, after I dreamed of Italo Calvino, reminding me of the short form, the short story, the essay is also a good form, I looked at the history of his writing practice, and he said at one point, he wrote his books very fast, but there would be a huge period of complete inactivity in between the writing bursts, a period in which, in a sense, he's lying fallow and new things are rising. So we can't be judgmental about this. The creative path has many variations, and creative people operate in different ways. And some of us require things like the impossible deadline, Gary. I mean, I am at my best as a writer when people are waiting. I know people are waiting avidly for the next book. Preferably, I have a contract and a deadline, or at least I have a deadline in the sense that people are waiting avidly. And now there's a week to go or 2 weeks to go, and I'm really going to get on it. And I hear the fire bell in the night, like the fireman. I'm slipping down the pole and getting on the truck and getting to the fire and getting it done. I love, as a creative person, I love creative crisis. I love the need to get it done now. So, we can't generalize about these things. Creative people have their own patterns of production.
Yeah, I guess I was pretty much talking about self-published books too, which I hate to say it. I mean, I think there is a good source and a good demand and out there for self-published books, but then I hate to say it. You have to be careful when you write a book and you contact one of these companies or publishers that does self-publishing books, because I hate to say it. A friend of mine wrote a book and they really hyped it up and said, oh, it's a real good book. You need to go print out 500 copies of the book. And they cut him a real good deal to print out 500 copies. I still think he has probably 450 copies left. And that was like 5 years ago. So, I mean, people got to be careful, because I don't know. Like you mentioned, you got to have a foundation and to write a book. You got to. I don't know. I'm not a writer.
Okay, where would you like to go now?
Well, we got about 8-9 minutes left here. I scheduled you into 8:30 because your editor said you could only have a certain time here tonight, and so why don't we again tell people where they can find your book? If you have a website, where they can find your website. If you have a Facebook, the Facebook, and let's do that.
Terrific. All right. Well, the new book is Mysterious Realities, subtitle A Dream Traveler's Tales from the Imaginal Realm. I'm extremely excited about this book. It's a new departure for me, writing in this vein. These are stories of real experiences and different realities and encounters with synchronicity in this world. It's a magical book. It will set your mind on fire, I think. You should be able to find it in any good bookstore and from the usual online suspects like Amazon and Barnes & Noble and so on. It is the latest of many books I've written of related interest, and they include Dreaming the Soul Back Home and Conscious Dreaming and the Secret History of Dreaming, and my personal memoir, The Boy Who Died and Came Back, which takes up the story I was sharing with Gary of what happened to me in childhood. My website is mossdreams.com. That's my surname, M-O-S-S, mossdreams.com. And you can find me on Facebook. I have some public pages on Facebook called Active Dreaming and Robert Moss Books. So I'm out and about. And, if you're called to follow a path of experiencing these things, I teach workshops and online courses in what I call active dreaming, which is my original synthesis of dream work and shamanism. It's a very powerful combination. It's being studied and practiced in 21 countries. And I just came back from teaching it in Romania and Barcelona. I teach it all over North America as well. So many ways to find me, many ways to get into the practice. For me, dreaming